Thank you for joining with me again. I'm loving going through A Course in Miracles with you. I just wanted to remind you that you don't need to feel rushed around this practice. You don't need to feel like you're getting through something. So if you do feel like there's obligation or that you need to get through something, that's indicative of resistance. And so it's better to just give yourself permission to go through the material, to go through the lessons or practice the lessons at your own pace. Just as a reminder, when I first started with the course, I sat with a lesson for days, for weeks, until I felt like I had gotten it, or at least I felt like I was practicing it with integrity. And then later, after several years, I made a commitment to do one lesson a day, no matter what, and just incorporated that into my meditation practice. So I just wanted to start here just to give you permission that you can go through this work, practice the lessons at your own pace. And so for today's video, we are at lesson 20. We'll be practicing lesson 20 and we'll continue our reading of the text. We are at the moment in chapter 18 and we'll be looking at section 6. And then, as always, we will do a little review of one of the principles of miracles. And what I love about the course and why I think it is an important practice to just simply show up for is because that we are inherently divine beings. We are inherently energetic beings. We are spiritual beings. And so what this is doing is helping us to undo the part of our consciousness that twists us, that pretzels us, that ties us into this time dependent, temporal, seemingly linear reality. Now, this reality, this experience of this little, unique, magnificent life is important. It's spectacular. So as we navigate it, really what we're doing, at least in the interim, until full realization of our spirit nature occurs, but what we can do is coax our minds to the truth of this now moment, to what is actually happening. And that's really what this is all about. All right, so let's go to the reading. Let me bring down my little video. Somehow it moves around. So can you see my cursor? I'm moving my little video around, but no matter what, somehow it repositions itself. All right, so we are at acim.org. I'm clicking on Read A Course in Miracles. We click on the text, scrolling down to chapter 18, The Passing of the Dream. And now we are at section 6, Beyond the Body. Okay, I can't wait to go through this one. Paragraph 1. There is nothing outside you. That is what you must ultimately learn. For it is the realization that the kingdom of heaven is restored to you. For God created only this, and he did not depart from it, nor leave it separate from himself. The kingdom of heaven is the dwelling place of the Son of God, who left not his Father, and dwells not apart from him. Heaven is not a place nor a condition. It is merely an awareness of perfect oneness, and the knowledge that there is nothing else, nothing outside this oneness, and nothing else within. And this is something that's really honed into in the Eastern traditions. You could, if you wanted to, peruse Lao Tzu's the Tao Te Ching. In verse 10, it says, can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? Can you let your body become supple as a newborn child's? Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but light? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? And so the Course is the same in its way. It's helping us undo the thought systems, the belief systems that prevent us from realizing the truth of the original oneness. And so the lessons are helping us to coax our mind from its wandering. The effect then is in the body. So as a result of letting the mind be free, can the body then become as supple as a newborn child? Because what that's pointing to is that there's no resistance in the body. So nothing is outside of you. It's really worth exploring that in the reality that you experience through your five physical senses, through your temporal existence. So for example, you could simply expand your attention to include your body. It's easy to do because your eyes look out from the body, looking out into the world. But what you're looking out into is included in your conscious awareness. It's there inside of your awareness. Without your awareness, it doesn't exist. So therefore, everything is included. Everything is happening within you. It begins and ends with you. Everything you read, everything you see on the television, everything you see out in the world, in nature, all the people that you meet, the conversations that you have are all included. I also like how we're being told what heaven isn't. Heaven is not a place nor a condition. It is merely an awareness of perfect oneness and the knowledge that there is nothing else, nothing outside this oneness, and nothing else within. It's very good. It might be worth even screenshotting this paragraph to remind you of this possibility. All right, so I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. Paragraph 2. What could God give but knowledge of himself? What else is there to give? The belief that you could give and get something else, something outside yourself, has cost you the awareness of heaven and of your identity. And you have done a stranger thing than you yet realize. You have displaced your guilt to your body from your mind. Yet a body cannot be guilty, for it can do nothing of itself. You who think you hate your body deceive yourself. You hate your mind, for guilt has entered into it, and it would remain separate from your brothers, which it cannot do. Wow. Okay, so we're being reminded that the body is innocent inherently. It's a servant. It is neutral. It's a communication device. It's an energetic amplifier. It's an effect of the mind. It's a projection of the mind, the part of the mind that is convinced that it has separated itself from that original oneness. And so when the mind attacks the body, it's misplacing that attack. When it judges the body, it's misplacing that judgment. However, a function that we can use the body for is to help us in any given moment bring our attention and therefore love home here to the body, especially when the body is expressing, communicating through pain, through discomfort, through the stressful feeling states, and ultimately through imbalance, which is simply reflecting back the imbalance of the mind, the imbalance of the thinking. The Course talks about guilt a lot. Guilt is the effect of the belief of separation. Guilt is, again, this belief that I must be bad, I must be wrong, I must be incomplete, there's something missing, and therefore, in order for me to have been kicked out of the kingdom of heaven, to be separated from that oneness. But that feeling is actually the alarm clock pointing to the fact that there is this part of consciousness that has subscribed to the point of view of the separation. It's the separation that is the illusion. It is the guilt that is the effect of that illusion, that feeling state. And then that guilt, as we know, turns into those stressful feeling states of loneliness, feeling alone, hopelessness. It can be overwhelm. Obviously, it's fear, lack of faith, which is doubt. And so when we allow those feeling states through that original false perception to fester, then that's the energetic vibration being broadcasted out into the world, which then the world will reflect back. All right, so let's keep going. I'm going to go back and share the screen for paragraph 3. Minds are joined, bodies are not. Only by assigning to the mind the properties of the body does separation seem to be possible. And it is mind that seems to be fragmented and private and alone. It is guilt, which keeps it separate, is projected to the body, which suffers and dies because it is attacked to hold the separation in the mind and let it not know its identity. And identity is with a capital I. Mind cannot attack, but it can make fantasies and direct the body to act them out. Yet it is never what the body does that seems to satisfy. Unless the mind believes the body is actually acting out its fantasies, it will attack the body by increasing the projection of its guilt upon it. Oh my. Okay, what I'm going to point out here simply is that the mind cannot attack, right? It can't. It's just simply energy moving, right? So even attack thoughts are benign, except that they have an effect in our biology and could be powerful enough to move the biology, to move matter, to actually attack. And so part of our experience here in the temporal world is to realize that phenomena, to notice that when the mind contracts, makes judgment, goes to attack, then the body responds in kind through its stressful feeling states, through the activation of the muscles, the heart begins to race, through the nervous system response, the autonomic nervous system response. And so then it gets acted out or it doesn't. So it could get acted out mildly with the jaw clenching, fist clenching, brow furrowing, or to the greater extreme, the body is used to actually attack. But if we go back to paragraph 1, that, okay, there's nothing outside of us, then what is it that we're hurting? When we think we're hurting another, our brother or a sister, it's ourselves that actually we're hurting. And we'll realize that when we wake up from this dream, the appearance of this chronological life story that you're living. And there are many stories of children sharing memories of other stories, which, because of the time-space lens through which we look at this reality, we deem it as past lives, but actually it's just simply stories being accessed and then anchored into this small part of the consciousness, this small little drop in the ocean. I'm going back to share now. Paragraph 4. In this, the mind is clearly delusional. So in the fantasy, where the body is being used to act out attack, so in this, the mind is clearly delusional. It cannot attack, but it maintains it can and uses what it does to hurt the body to prove it can. The mind cannot attack, but it can deceive itself. And this is all it does when it believes it has attacked the body. It can project its guilt, but it will not lose it through projection. And though it clearly can misperceive the function of the body, it cannot change its function from what the Holy Spirit establishes it to be. The body was not made by love, yet love does not condemn it and can use it lovingly, respecting what the Son of God has made and using it to save him from illusions. Wow. So here we're being shown the possibility that we made the body, that actually it wasn't an original thought of God, but because man and the consciousness of man is an effect of God and lives in the mind of the infinite creator, so does the body, and is loved as unconditionally, and is used for the purpose of revealing truth to us. The Eastern traditions also go back to this and say, okay, in the meditation practice, to simply pay attention on the direct experience of the body as it is. And the purpose of that is to use the body as a pathway or as an entry point, as a portal into that original oneness. It's magnificent. It really is magnificent. Okay, I'm going to go back to share for paragraph 5. Would you not have the instruments of separation reinterpreted as means for salvation and used for purposes of love? Would you not welcome and support the shift from fantasies of vengeance to release from them? Your perception of the body can clearly be sick, but project not this upon the body. For your wish to make destructive what cannot destroy can have no real effect at all. What God created is only what he would have it be, being his will. You cannot make his will destructive. You can make fantasies in which your will conflicts with his, but that is all. I'm going to keep going for paragraph 6. It is insane to use the body as the scapegoat for guilt, directing its attack and blaming it for what you wished it to do. It is impossible to act out fantasies, for it is still the fantasies you want, and they have nothing to do with what the body does. It does not dream of them, and they but make it a liability where it could be an asset. The fantasies have made your body your enemy, weak, vulnerable, and treacherous, worthy of the hate that you invest in it. How has this served you? You have identified with this thing you hate, the instrument of vengeance and the perceived source of your guilt. You've done this to a thing that has no meaning, proclaiming it to be the dwelling place of God's Son and turning it against him. We're going to keep going for paragraph 7. This is the host of God that you have made, and neither God nor his most holy Son can enter an abode that harbors hate, and where you have sown the seeds of vengeance, violence, and death. This thing you made to serve your guilt stands between you and other minds. The minds are joined, and you do not identify with them. You see yourself locked in a separate prison, removed and unreachable, incapable of reaching out as being reached. You hate this prison you have made and would destroy it, but you would not escape from it, leaving it unharmed without your guilt upon it. Okay, and so we're being reminded again that while the bodies are separate, the minds are joined. The body exists within the mind. If we delve more deeply, we find that actually bodies are not separate either, because they're existing as a symbol, a symbol made of matter, what we would call matter, to prove to the mind that it is separate. That is the function that the mind has given to the body. But yet, as this section is reminding us, that actually there's a part of the mind that hates that and resents that. And the most important thing, though, is that the mind is actually not separate from our brothers and sisters' minds, that they're all conjoined. We actually have direct experience of this phenomena because we have what we call our intuition or premonition, or we might have visions and dreams. And again, we can access this through work like the quantum healing hypnosis work. We all have the capacity to expand this limited point of view, this limited level of consciousness, to include a greater, more expanded point of view. That includes one another and then also reaches to and brings in God's wisdom, God's truth. Let's go back to share the screen. And now we are at paragraph 8. There is hope for us. Yet only thus can you escape. The home of vengeance is not yours. The place you set aside to house your hate is not a prison, but an illusion of yourself. The body is a limit imposed on the universal communication that is an eternal property of mind. But the communication is internal. Mind reaches to itself. It is not made up of different parts which reach each other. It does not go out. Within itself, it has no limits, and there is nothing outside it. It encompasses everything. It encompasses you entirely, you within it, and it within you. There is nothing else, anywhere, or ever. Wow. And again, I'll just say that the wisdom that's being shared here in this chapter and in this section is mirrored, is reflected through the ancient wisdoms of antiquity, and like I said, through the Eastern healing art traditions, meditation traditions, yogic traditions. Paragraph 9. The body is outside you but seems to surround you, shutting you off from others and keeping you apart from them and them from you. It is not there. There is no barrier between God and his Son, nor can his Son be separated from himself except in illusions. This is not his reality, though he believes it is. Yet this could only be if God were wrong. God would have had to create differently and to have separated himself from his Son to make this possible. He would have had to create different things and to establish different orders of reality, only some of which were love. Yet love must be forever like itself, changeless, forever and forever without alternative. And so it is. You cannot put a barrier around yourself because God placed none between himself and you. Wow, I have to say, I find this so moving. Let's continue with paragraph 10. You can stretch out your hand and reach to heaven. And whose hand is joined with your brother's? You whose hand is joined with your brother's have begun to reach beyond the body, but not outside yourself, to reach your shared identity together. Could this be outside you, where God is not? Is he a body? And did he create you as he is not, and where he cannot be? You are surrounded only by him. What limits can there be on you whom he encompasses? We'll keep going for paragraph 11. Everyone has experienced what he would call a sense of being transported beyond himself. This feeling of liberation far exceeds the dream of freedom, sometimes hoped for in special relationships. It is a sense of actual escape from limitations. If you will consider what this transportation really entails, you'll realize that it is a sudden unawareness of the body, and a joining of yourself in something else in which your mind enlarges to encompass it. It becomes part of you as you unite with it, and both become whole as neither is perceived as separate. What really happens is that you have given up the illusion of a limited awareness and lost your fear of union. The love that instantly replaces it extends to what has freed you and unites with it. And while this lasts, you are not uncertain of your identity and would not limit it. You have escaped from fear to peace, asking no questions of reality, but merely accepting it. You have accepted this instead of the body and have let yourself be one with something beyond it, simply by not letting your mind be limited by it. I think the best way to connect with this is through stories of NDEs, meaning near-death experiences. There are so many stories that describe this phenomena, and I think they're worthwhile going into because you get to hear how that experience, that phenomena can be articulated. And it might also be worthwhile to look into the work of Elsbeth Kubler-Ross. She worked in hospice and created a lovely environment for people at the end stages of their lives. And so that might be helpful as well. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. For paragraph 12. This can occur regardless of the physical distance that seems to be between you and what you join, of your respective positions in space, and of your differences in size and seeming quality. Time is not relevant. It can occur with something past, present, or anticipated. The something can be anything and anywhere, a sound, a sight, a thought, a memory, and even a general idea without specific reference. Yet in every case, you join it without reservation because you love it, and it would be with it. And so you rush to meet it, letting your limits melt away, suspending all the laws your body obeys, and gently setting them aside. I think I've mentioned this book before, Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani, where she has beautifully described what it was like when she died. When consciousness left the body, there was a decision, a choice that was made to continue in this realm of story, to bring that wisdom into the realm of story. And through that process, the laws of physical nature of the body became null and void because the body then received what we would call the miracle. And this is what this is all about. As the minds are joined, as it transcends time, we can use our senses, though. We can use the gift of imagination to connect with love, which is really prayer, right? What this paragraph to me seems to be saying is that use the power of prayer to connect minds and let that be the instrument, the path through which miracles can occur. I'm going to go back to share the screen. And I'll read these last two paragraphs together. Paragraph 13. There is no violence at all in this escape. The body is not attacked, but simply properly perceived. It does not limit you merely because you would not have it so. You are not really lifted out of it. It cannot contain you. You go where you would be, gaining, not losing, a sense of self. In these instants of release from physical restrictions, you experience much of what happens in the holy instant. The lifting of the barriers of time and space, the sudden experience of peace and joy, and above all, the lack of awareness of the body and of the questioning whether or not all this is possible. Yeah. All right, paragraph 14. It is possible because you want it. The sudden expansion of awareness that takes place with your desire for it is the irresistible appeal the holy instant holds. It calls to you to be yourself within its safe embrace. There are the laws of limit lifted for you to welcome you to openness of mind and freedom. Come to this place of refuge where you can be yourself in peace, not through destruction, not through a breaking out, but merely by a quiet melting in. For peace will join you there, simply because you've been willing to let go the limits you've placed upon love and joined it where it is and where it led you in answer to its gentle call to be at peace. Wow. And so this is why meditation is the answer, and this is why I show up to do the meditation retreats. One day meditation retreat is creating the conditions to be still and to experience directly this phenomena. Expansion of consciousness and the shifting of perception. and the expansion of consciousness that includes the body, but is no longer attached. All right, so I'm going to go back and share the screen. We're now going to practice today's lesson. Clicking on workbook for the students. We are at lesson 20. And I'm going to have the narrator read that for us.
Lesson 20. I am determined to see. We have been quite casual about our practice periods thus far. There has been virtually no attempt to direct the time for undertaking them. Minimal effort has been required, and not even active cooperation and interest have been asked. This approach has been intentional and very carefully planned. We have not lost sight of the crucial importance of the reversal of your thinking. The salvation of the world depends on it. Yet you will not see if you regard yourself as being coerced, and if you give in to resentment and opposition. This is our first attempt to introduce structure. Do not misconstrue it as an effort to exert force or pressure. You want salvation. You want to be happy. You want peace. You do not have them now because your mind is totally undisciplined, and you cannot distinguish between joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, love and fear. You are now learning how to tell them apart, and great indeed will be your reward. Your decision to see is all that vision requires. What you want is yours. Do not mistake the little effort that is asked of you for an indication that our goal is of little worth. Can the salvation of the world be a trivial purpose? And can the world be saved if you are not? God has one Son, and He is the resurrection and the life. His will is done, because all power is given Him in heaven and on earth. In your determination to see, is vision given you. The exercises for today consist in reminding yourself throughout the day that you want to see. Today's idea also tacitly implies the recognition that you do not see now. Therefore, as you repeat the idea, you are stating that you are determined to change your present state for a better one and one you really want. Repeat today's idea slowly and positively, at least twice an hour today, attempting to do so every half hour. Do not be distressed if you forget to do so, but make a real effort to remember. The extra repetitions should be applied to any situation, person, or event that upsets you. You can see them differently, and you will. What you desire, you will see. Such is the real law of cause and effect as it operates in the world.
So we're not given a set period of time to practice the idea for today's lesson, but rather we're being instructed to practice the idea throughout the day, every half an hour. So let's go back to the idea. The idea is, I am determined to see. I like to play with statements by changing the emphasis. So how does it land? We say it with the emphasis on the I. I am determined to see. So the I being the small self that apparently through inference isn't seeing the truth. We can put the emphasis on the am. I am determined to see. So that feels like there's this willingness, there's this conviction, there is a determination to see. I am determined to see. So when we put the emphasis on the determined, now we can feel or connect with that strength that comes with it. I am determined to see. I'm putting the emphasis now on the see, to see. So you could play with it that way through the day. So one way to remember doing it throughout the day is to set a timer. It's just a simple reminder. It will only take a second, but you could set a timer on your phone. So for 30 minutes, every time the timer goes off, set it again throughout the day. And then through that repetition, it becomes the mantra for the day. And then you can apply the idea in specific situations as they arise. So, especially in situations that create a little bit of turbulence inside where you feel your peace being pulled away. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for the Principle of Miracles. Okay, we click back on the text. Oops. The meaning of miracles, principles of miracles, and we are at number 38. The Holy Spirit is the mechanism of miracles. He recognizes both God's creations and your illusions. He separates the true from the false by his ability to perceive totally rather than selectively. And so I think a good idea is also to take a screenshot of the Principle of Miracles, to read that throughout the day and contemplate the truth of it. All right. So thank you for joining with me again for another video in A Course in Miracles. Please share what it is that you are noticing, any ahas, any direct experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear, or any resistance as well. I also like to remind you to take a look at the Elila Center website, www.elilacenter.org, to look for the online offerings, which includes the monthly mindfulness-based meditation class, which is on the third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then on the fourth Monday of the month is the meditation and natural healing self-help class, where you learn a self-help protocol, also helping create the conditions for miracles. All right, wonderful. So have a great day, and I'll see you soon.